What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Anfernee, and in this video I want to talk about why being cheap is so dang expensive. And I'm a person personally who loves searching for the value. I love searching on clearance and going to the sketchy websites trying to find a good deal. And more times than not, what I've noticed is that I'm actually losing more money by being cheap than I would be by buying quality products. And how I got the idea to discuss this topic was I saw a YouTube short by a good friend of mine who has a YouTube channel of his own. His name is Kelechi, and I'm not sure how to pronounce his whole name. I think it's Kelechi Waba, but I'll put a pop-up of his channel here now. And after I saw that short, I wanted to post my own personal experience and my own personal life lessons that I've learned of how being cheap is way more expensive than someone would actually think it is. So to get right into my first point for this video, let's talk about price versus value, because a lot of times when you are cheap or when you're only focused on spending the smallest amount of money possible, you're only looking at price. You're not necessarily looking at the value for your money. Let me explain. So in the past 3 years since I graduated college, I have owned 3 push lawnmowers. One of the first push lawnmowers I owned was a very small, cheap one from Walmart, and I think it was less than $100. And that lawnmower in total probably lasted me about 6 months before I hit a small stump and that lawnmower was gone for good. The axle was bent and I could never use it again. So after that, my second lawnmower was a little bit more expensive, but it was a little bit less than $200 that I bought from Lowe's, and it was pretty much the same story as the Walmart lawnmower, just with a little bit more firepower. It didn't have any motorized wheels or anything. It was basically the Walmart version of a Lowe's lawnmower, and I ended up hitting a couple rocks, maybe a small stump with that lawnmower as well, maybe bent the axle, and I'm not exactly sure what happened. I think I may have left it out in the rain too as well, but overall it only lasted about a year, and I was already $300 in the hole for lawnmowers. And now I was in search for my third lawnmower in about 1.5 years. So at this point, I was tired of buying lawnmowers. So I told myself I'm going to get the nicest push lawnmower because I didn't have a big lawn at the time. And I was going to spend about $400 to $500 on a push lawnmower. And that is when I went to Lowe's and I got one of those push lawnmowers that has motorized wheels, that has a very wide wheelbase, and overall has a much better build quality and value for your money than one of the cheap lawnmowers would be. And the reason why I tell this story is that there is a distinct difference between the price and the value of items. The value of something can be expressed in many ways. One of those ways is time, as I'm going to talk about later in this video. But what I want to iterate is that the price of something and the value of that thing pretty much separates the lower the price gets and the lower the quality gets. It makes no sense to continue buying the same thing over and over again and it continues to break simply because the price is lower than a higher quality item. And that sort of leads me into my second point really nicely, which is the replacement cycle of cheap items. Like I said, even if you're not talking about lawnmowers, if you're talking about something that you use on a regular basis, let's say it's a camera or a microphone or a computer, or a lot of times headphones, if you are buying cheaper products with lower quality raw materials being used to build them, a lot of times you're going to be replacing that item a lot more often than you would be of the quality item. Let's take shoes for example. Okay, you can go to the cheapest store you can find. You can probably get a pair of running shoes for $5 to $10, and by the time you go on 2 to 3 runs, you may find yourself having holes in those shoes, being very uncomfortable with using those shoes, and overall having a very unpleasant time because of the price point that you chose to buy those shoes at. Whereas if you chose to spend $100+ on some running shoes, you should in theory obviously get something a lot more comfortable, a lot more durable, and overall something that will provide a lot more value to your life, even though it costs a little bit more money. I think a lot of the times cheap people, myself included, try to associate how much money that we have or save with the amount of value that the item provides to our life. And I have come to say that sometimes your time or your comfort is way more valuable to you than the $10 or $15 or even $100 that you may end up saving by going with a cheaper product. So when you go into my third point and you start to measure efficiency and you start to measure time saved, I want you to sit down and think about how much do you think you are worth per hour. And I'm not talking about just your hourly wage. I'm talking about how much do you think that your time is worth. Because if we go back to my lawnmower example, and you're spending 2 hours mowing a lawn with a cheap lawnmower rather than 30 minutes mowing your lawn with a high quality lawnmower, how much is that 90 minutes of your day worth to you in monetary terms? Is 90 minutes worth $20? Is 90 minutes worth $200? Or is it somewhere in between? And it's not just the 90 minutes of that one-time occurrence, it's that 90-minute difference in this lawnmower scenario of every time you have to mow your lawn from that day to the foreseeable future. So in any given month, if you mow your lawn 4 times a month, month, that may be 6 hours of your time that you're spent mowing your lawn when you could be spending 2 hours. So once you start to sit back and think, it's spending an extra $300 one time worth getting back 6 more hours of my month every single month. And if you can honestly say that in that scenario that it is not, then maybe being cheap is the best option for you. But I quickly began to understand that quality for one-time big purchases is much more reliable and provides much more value for my life than being cheap would be. And one of the biggest examples of this that I probably should have brought up earlier in this video is buying a cheap car versus buying a quality car. Now, I'm not talking about a luxury car, I'm just talking about a significantly better quality car than a cheap car would be. You can go to any used car lot and buy the worst car on the lot for about $1,000 to $2,000. But I guarantee you that within a month of you driving off that car lot, if you try to take a long road trip, you will end up breaking down and spending probably more than the car is worth fixing that car every single month. Whereas instead of spending $2,000 on the car, maybe you up your budget to $5,000 or $10,000 just to get you a durable Toyota, a durable Honda, something that has a track record of being reliable. And instead of only looking at the dollar value, you are looking at the value and the quality that it brings to your life and the quality that it will continue to bring to your life as you continue to use that product. However, the whole point of this video was talking about how being cheap is more expensive, and you can't measure being more expensive in value and time saved. So if we're talking in strictly dollar terms and we put all the factors that we talked about in this video into a monetary value, if you continue to replace a cheap object, as I said, a 1,000 car every single month or every single 2 months, within 2 years, you would have spent more money on that cheap product by replacing it so much and by all the time and sweat that you put in that cheap product than you would be if you had just bought a quality product that was a little bit more expensive in the very beginning. A couple of other things that I decided to switch in my life to be a little bit more expensive than when I was being really cheap is internet speed. Since I create a lot of content and it is a business for me, I found that splurging a little bit more on faster internet speeds allowed me to be more efficient with my time and allowed me to create more content that made more money than the difference of the internet bills were. As I mentioned already in this video, another example will be the lawnmower. I am a person who tries to mow the lawn at least once or twice a week, and having a lawnmower with a motor power wheel definitely makes the process easier and faster for me, and also overall it just makes it a lot more enjoyable, so I am motivated to take better care of my yard. And lastly, one of the biggest things is the actual equipment that I use to make content here on YouTube. I try to buy things that have a lot of value, such as the Yeti microphone as I use, such as the Mac Mini that I'm using to record this video, and a laptop that I use. A lot of the things make my everyday life more enjoyable. And also one of the biggest things that I almost forgot to mention was this $50 or $60 mouse that allows me to hold my hand in a more ergonomic manner so that I can resist carpal tunnel as I continue to work from home for the foreseeable future. Now, I know that this mouse may look a little bit small in my hand. I am 6'7" tall, so a lot of things do look small in my hand, but overall those few things up to this point have been a complete game changer in terms of making my life more efficient and then bringing more money and happiness into my life than the $50 I would have saved not buying these products would have been. But don't get me wrong, I am not a reckless splurger by any means. So now let me give you some categories that I still am cheap in, and I will continue to be cheap in as long as the quality remains comparable to the expensive products. And one of those biggest categories for me is groceries. Whenever I go grocery shopping, I always go to Walmart and buy as many great value brands as I possibly can. I know there's a little bit controversy about the quality of great value foods, but I personally think it tastes fine and I haven't gotten sick from it yet. So whether it's great value cereal, great value candy, anything besides meat, I tend to get off the great value shelf rather than getting a name brand version. I would even buy great value gas if I could. Unfortunately, they don't sell that. Another category that I tend to be cheap in is any service that I can do myself in a reasonable amount of time and for a considerably cheaper amount than what a company would charge me. For example, car detailing or bug treating my yard. A lot of those things tend to cost $50 to $100 plus per month if you chose to hire it out. And if you just did it yourself, you may just take one weekend and a fraction of the cost to do it yourself rather than wasting money hiring someone else to do it. And I know that there's a lot of other great categories that you can be cheap in. So if you have any ideas of those categories that you want to share with me, then leave a comment down below, as I like to read every single one of them. However, if you found any kind of value in this video, then hit that like button for your boy and hit that subscribe button, as I like to make content like this, and I'll be making plenty more content like this. And if you want to learn more about my YouTube process and how I make videos and thumbnails, then you can pre-order my thumbnail masterclass, where I go through the entire process of making thumbnails in about 18 videos, very in-depth, and you can see exactly how I do that. However, with all that being said, thank you for watching all the way to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next one, guys. Peace.